Welcome to today's video. This is going to help you understand what you're purchasing when you purchase a professional land survey and how to read that survey so you get the maximum benefit from it.
The surveyor will create a plat that discusses the whole process he went through to establish this boundary. So we have an example here done by Tyler. On sheet number 1, you'll see there's a few different sections here. I'd like to start with the top left over in this area. So that is the vicinity map or control detail. In this situation, it shows the subject property, it shows the roads that are nearby, and some of the survey control or the monumentation that the surveyor went to make this boundary determination. After that, Tyler's placed the data reference table, and that data reference table goes through and identifies all of the research that was done to help assist with this boundary determination. And that gives important information such as the recording information, the name of the property owner, and then the document type and things of that nature. And then to the real meat of the survey plat is the survey narrative.
As far as the surveyor narrative goes, it's the backbone of your survey. And today's standards, we take it a step further. Besides just saying what we said, we are referencing this data reference table in the surveyor's narrative. So as we were saying, those excess and deficiencies, when we find those ambiguities, our analysis from the findings in the field, but then also the application of boundary law, is explained in that surveyor's narrative. In addition to that, it's also explaining the sources of those laws, if applicable. In some cases, like here in EB 1 through 4, I'm giving the source of the law, which is a court case, Q2 versus Hughes, which obviously adds validity to this is a legit law and should be noted.
A few other sections that you'll find on the face of this page here is the record boundary descriptions, which reference what was in the data reference table. That's some of that technical terminology. And then you'll see the composite boundary description. So in this scenario, there were several parcels that were surveyed, and then an overall description was created to identify where exactly that parcel lands on the ground.
Those key features. So if we come in here and zoom in, you can see that we found some old fence posts here. We can see that the fence is pretty well right on the property line, as it should. We can see information regarding points of beginnings. This here is the course and bearing and distance along that line. We can get some dimensioning as the fence varies a little bit more, and have an understanding of the relationship to the fence, in that case, to the boundary.
The main thing is really knowing where the boundary is, and that's done through different points that were set on the ground. So for example, there's a point there that is it's labeled as set rebar and cap. So that was where the surveyor went out and said, this is your property corner. Physically set a point in the ground that can be walked to, a fence company can go and pull a string to, and know exactly where the boundary is at.
Some other key elements that are found is when we're tracing an original line, you get information to what the record was and then what was actually measured on that course. These things get really important when working with other professionals such as title companies, for them to really digest what the surveyor is doing and what they've done on the property.
And you'll see in other places there's some notes on parcel numbers and the acreage of those or that accompany those parcel numbers. That's pretty valuable information, especially from the retracement point. Any little bit of information, whether it's a distance or acreage, that's valuable, but above all is the physical points in the ground, or the different features that identify the property lines. There's just a ton of good information on there. There's you'll see places where, for example, Tyler's got some little blow-up areas or details of things that he felt was important to identify on that survey. So every little bit of information on here should really try to digest and understand what the surveyor was trying to accomplish.
If we come over here to detail 2, we can see that there's some really technical things that are happening. Notably there where it's saying C deed line, C narrative, sectional EB and EC. So in this case, the survey itself, this plat map, is referencing what the surveyor's mind state was and the law that he went through to make his boundary retracement determination. And as we can see, obviously the surveyor saw a discrepancy in the boundary, as he called it, a deed line, not a property line, and was disclosing that that issue was there, but it's duly resolved by applicable law.
Yeah.
Invaluable for one another surveyor and to the client that's trying to buy this property.
And then, of course, at the very end of it all, you'll see the surveyor's stamp, his seal, the signature and the date. That is what makes it an official document and ready to be recorded with the county or the city or state.
And really the significance of a seal is certifying that the data on here is true and correct, right? And that we make the measurements and that we are certifying to those measurements as being true and correct. And as such, we, being certifiers to it, we're also liable for those measurements. There's one other element that people may find value, and that's the legend here. And North Point and Scale Bar, the legend itself gives you an understanding of what those lines and dots and X's truly are. The scale bar here, it helps understanding what the scale of the drawing is too. And if for whatever reason it gets printed on, say, 11 by 17, you can still make a scaled measurements because you've got a scale bar there to reference what the scale factor was that shrunk down the document. And North Point obviously helps you orient the document to North. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us in going over how to read a professional survey and really what that survey does in protecting you. Thank you for being here, Josh.
Thanks for having me.